Welcome to Kochi, the gateway to Kerala. Kochi is a city full of history, in particular Fort Kochi. A lovely place to spend a day or two before to go and explore the backwaters. In this quick video, I'll show you what to expect in Kochi. We jumped on a Uber from the airport. It was very wet when we arrived. Luckily, it dried up very quickly the next morning. The Uber taxis, by the way, they are quite affordable. I was wondering how they can possibly be so cheap considering the distances covered. Most of those vehicles do not run on petrol. They run on CNG fuel, compressed natural gas. I didn't even know it existed. It's only when the Uber driver got to the petrol station and he asked me to get out of the car for safety. I was like, why? That's how I realized it was not petrol they were putting into the cars. CNG gas is actually cheaper. Anyway, Kochi. As you can see, some of the water streams are not particularly clean. But the city is lovely to explore, on foot or in a tuk-tuk. They have those amazing rain trees. They might have been brought by the Brits, because some of those rain trees are found across the former British Empire. You'll see a lot of people fishing in the sea. Not the cleanest place to come. The seafront is actually a little bit polluted. They've kept some industrial parts as a deco here. As you walk along the seafront of Fort Kochi, you'll see a lot of those beautiful Chinese fishing nets. So Fort Kochi is surrounded by water on each side. It's a beautiful colonial area. If you want to go back towards Ernakulam, the mainland, you can jump on those very cheap ferries. You've got some for foot passengers with aircon, or you can just jump on those car ferries as well. In the distance, you see the Kochi shipyards. They were set up thanks to a collaboration with the Japanese. The busiest shipbuilding in India. Those ferries are very cheap, by the way, but don't do like us, don't run into the first one coming, because we actually took the wrong one. So you might want to check where it goes first. Fort Kochi is a particularly interesting area because it was first developed by the Portuguese between 1503 to 1663, then the Dutch took over between 1663 to 1795, and then the Brits from 1795 to 1947. So you can see the different influences. We actually came to Kochi twice. By the way, Kochi, Cochin, same thing. You might see it spelled Kochi or Cochin, same thing. There are quite a few Indian towns and cities with different names, for some reason. Kochi is not the capital of the state of Kerala, by the way. The capital is Thiruvananthapuram. Apologies if I butchered that. Now, about 40 minutes walk from Fort Kochi towards the east, or just a few minutes ride in a tuk-tuk, you'll find the Dutch Palace. Oh, an eagle. It's also known as Mattancherry Palace. I think you can visit the inside, but sadly it was closed on the day when we visited. It was first built by the Portuguese in the 16th century. But later on in the 17th century it was presented to the Raja of Kochi. It is in there that the local Rajas were being crowned. And it is only 10 minutes walk from the heart of the Jewish district. If you come and visit Kochi, you've got to go and see the Jewish area. You'll find some beautiful trees along the way. Some of them with interesting fruits inside. I think that's the one they put in the pickles. These little green ones. The Jewish connection to the area actually dates back to 2000 years ago. It is said that St. Thomas, that later on became one of the apostles of Jesus, had come here to build a Jewish settlement. And of course you might have had more people from the Jewish community coming here at the time of the Portuguese, after the Spanish Inquisition and all that. It's a lovely area to stroll around, mainly for shopping though. It is very touristy today, with international as well as a lot of domestic tourism. I love the letterboxes. I guess it's fair to say I'm a bit of a letterbox nerd. I like to check the shape of the different post boxes in different countries, especially in the countries that were once part of the British Empire, to see if they look like the ones we've got in the UK. This is the old Jewish synagogue. It dates back to 1568, would you believe? Still running, apparently, although there are very few people still from the Jewish community living here today. I like the Indian goats. There's something funny about their faces. That is the St. George's Orthodox Church. Some of the streets might feel a little bit dangerous to go for a walk because you got no proper sidewalks. Or they are occupied by traders or some parked motorcycles, for example, so you kind of have to walk in the middle of the street. So to explain those different waves of colonialization here, well, first, the Portuguese, they used to buy their spices from the Arabs. Hello? Because the Arabs are, of course, just across the Arabian Sea. And eventually, using violence, the Portuguese found out where the spices were coming from, Kerala. So they tried to establish a monopoly on the spice trade. So they settled in Fort Kochi. But they didn't show a lot of respect to the local king, and eventually the local king decided to make a deal with the Dutch instead. So the Dutch took over, and then pretty much the same thing happened, and then the Brits took over, until India's independence. In Fort Kochi, you'll find a lot of shops with beautiful fabrics like this one here. So if you are into souvenirs, you'll find a lot. Fort Kochi is also lovely to go for an evening walk. That made us smile. Do not walk on the grass. What grass? This? If you wanted to go for an alcoholic drink, you'd have to find a proper bar. The sale of alcohol in Kerala is controlled by the government. So every establishment needs a very special, expensive license to be able to sell alcohol. It is partially due to a tragedy that happened in 1995, the Uch tragedy, where local traders here in Kochi were selling bad alcohol mixed with methyl alcohol. 14 people lost their lives and 24 lost their eyesight. After that, the local government decided to fully control the sale of alcohol, with potentially a bit of pressure from different religious groups. Anyway, time for a dosa for breakfast. It's a very typical breakfast food, a dosa. It's like a savory crepe with curries and sauces. You do have a little beach in Fort Kochi called Fort Kochi Beach. Lovely spot for sunset, but not for a swim. It's a little bit polluted. And you can have a lovely walk along the seafront all the way towards the Chinese fishing nets. You can also find the St. Francis Church, the oldest church in the area, where was once buried Vasco da Gama, the Portuguese explorer, although his body was moved 14 years later to be brought back to Portugal. Along the seafront, you'll also see some of those original cannons from the fort. Sadly, there was a great fire in Kochi in 1889. The Brits were doing the shipbuilding. They didn't really want the local community to do it. And there was a revolt about a ship that was locally made. It was set on fire. The fire ravaged the town. This gentleman is selling tea on his motorcycle. They serve the tea with milk and sugar. Most of the time it's already in there. And it's very affordable. Now, a bit of street food. That was like a vegetable stir-fry with cornflakes on top. Why not? If you wonder how long to spend in Fort Kochi, I would say a day and a half is enough. This cute little bridge there was once built to link two different Jewish families. This is the inside of the beautiful church of Santa Claus, a church that was sadly destroyed by the Great Fire of Kochi, but then rebuilt in 1905. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that little video. Make sure you check out all my other videos of Kerala and India. Have a look at those beautiful seats at the airport. Bye!